Okay, the time is now 9:19 a.m. and you may call the meeting to order.
Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues, staff members of the public. It's just after 9 a.m., 9:20 on the October 14th, 2025. And we are calling the special meeting of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors to order. We'll start with having the clerk of the board provide information on how the public can participate in this meeting.
Members of the public, the instructions to participate in today's meeting can be found on the published agenda. These instructions provide information on how to submit written comments and how to participate via Zoom. Because this is a special meeting, public comment will be limited to the identified agenda items only, items 1 and 2. Live interpretation of this entire meeting will be provided in Spanish. To access live interpretation services in Zoom via laptop or computer, please click the interpretation globe and select the Spanish language. If you're using a smartphone or tablet, please locate the three-dot menu, select interpretation, and then select Spanish language and finally click done. At this time, I will ask our interpreter, Victor Hernandez, to provide these instructions in Spanish.
Thank you, Ms. Goldstein. Good morning, President Canepa, honorable supervisors, Mr. Callagy, Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Niblin, all county staff, members of the public, Victor Hernandez, Spanish interpreter. Muy buenos días, miembros del público. Las instrucciones para participar en la reunión de hoy se pueden encontrar en lo que es en el orden del día ya publicado. Estas instrucciones dan información de cómo presentar comentarios tanto por escrito y por Zoom. Por el hecho de que esta es una reunión especial, el comentario público será limitado simplemente al punto del orden del día. También, miembros del público, se les va a proporcionar interpretación en vivo de toda esta reunión en español, y para poder acceder a lo que son los servicios de interpretación por vivo en Zoom, ya sea con una computadora o una portátil, usted tendrá que hacer clic en lo que es el icono del globo terráqueo, es decir, un mundo que aparecerá al fondo de su pantalla y seleccionará el idioma español. Ahora, si ustedes están utilizando un teléfono inteligente o una tableta, busque lo que es el menú de 3 puntos, seleccione su interpretación y luego seleccione el idioma en español. Y por último, usted tendrá que hacer clic o listo, done. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those instructions. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have the roll call, please?
Supervisor Spear, Supervisor Corzo. Here. Supervisor Mueller, Supervisor Gaucher. Here. President Canepa.
I am here.
All present.
All right. We're now on to the action to set the agenda. I would like us to take action to set the agenda. Can I get a motion to set the agenda?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Spear,
Aye.
Supervisor Corzo,
Yes.
Supervisor Mueller,
Yes.
Supervisor Gaucher,
Yes.
President Canepa.
Yes.
Motion passes.
This is a special meeting of the board, and that being the case, public comment will be limited to the agendized items, which are items 1 and 2. Item 1 is a closed session conference with legal counsel authorized under subparagraph D1 of section 54956.9 of the government code regarding the pending sheriff removal proceedings pursuant to section 412.5 of the San Mateo County Charter. Item 2 is consideration in open session of a resolution for the following actions: receiving the advisory written opinion of the hearing officer finding that the county has cause to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office, confirming the Board of Supervisors' independent review of the hearing officer's opinion and the administrative record, and determining by a preponderance of the evidence that there is cause to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office. Making a final decision to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office for cause pursuant to section 412.5 of the San Mateo County Charter. Declaring that the Board of Supervisors adopts at its own the rationale of the hearing officer and finding cause for the removal. Approving the letter of county council as the final decision after removal hearing, making Sheriff Christina Corpus removal final and effective immediately. Establishing the administrative record. We have received correspondence from the sheriff requesting that she and her counsel be given 2 hours to present to the board today. I do not believe that this is necessary, as the sheriff and her counsel have had multiple opportunities and channels to communicate with this board and to present information regarding this matter, including the 10-day appeal hearing that took place during August, at which the sheriff and her counsel were able to present evidence and make arguments. All of that material, including transcripts and exhibits from the hearing, is part of the administrative record, which the board has received and considered. However, given the nature of this matter under consideration, I believe that it is appropriate to allow the sheriff and her counsel of 30 minutes to address the board. Before we move to public comment on these two items, though, I would like for staff to introduce this item for us. Mr. Niblin, are you going to introduce this?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll go ahead and do that. And I did want to say a few words about this matter by way of an introduction. Today's proceedings are authorized and brought under Section 412.5 of the county charter. And as has been discussed in prior meetings, Section 412.5 was added to the county charter after the election countywide on Measure A, which was approved by approximately 84% of the votes that were cast in that election. Section 412.5 also provides that this board is authorized to adopt procedures pursuant to which the removal proceedings will be conducted. And this board, in fact, has adopted such procedures. And pursuant to these procedures, at a meeting on June 5th of 2025, after an independent investigation by the law firm of Kecker, Van Nest, and Peters, this board approved the issuance of a notice of intent to remove the sheriff from office for cause pursuant to Section 412.5 of the charter. The board thereafter directed staff to provide the sheriff with a copy of the notice. The notice of intent concludes that the sheriff engaged in multiple acts of misconduct that constitute cause to remove her from office. Consistent with the procedures adopted by the board, a pre-removal conference occurred on June 11th, 2025, before the San Mateo County Chief Probation Officer, Chief John Keene. At this conference, the sheriff had the opportunity to be heard with respect to the allegations, and Chief Keene considered the information and explanations offered by the sheriff. On June 17th, 2025, Chief Keene issued a written recommendation that the board approve and adopt the notice of intent and move forward with the proposed removal action. At a meeting on June 24th, 2025, the board sustained Chief Keene's recommendation to remove the sheriff from office for cause, and the board adopted a resolution setting forth its final notice of decision to remove the sheriff from office, pending her right to appeal. The sheriff did, in fact, request an appeal, and the Honorable James Emerson, a retired Santa Clara County Superior Court judge, was appointed to serve as hearing officer for the removal appeal hearing. Judge Emerson presided over a hearing that lasted for 10 days, from August 18th through the 29th of 2025. At that hearing, 36 witnesses testified under oath, and 174 exhibits were admitted into the record. Subsequent to the hearing, Judge Emerson issued an advisory opinion that was received on October 6th of 2025. In the advisory opinion, Judge Emerson finds, among other things, that a preponderance of the evidence at the removal hearing establishes that the county has cause to remove the sheriff from office pursuant to Section 412.5 of the county charter. Specifically, Judge Emerson found, by a preponderance of the evidence, that the county established 4 separate causes to remove the sheriff. First, that there was a conflict of interest regarding the sheriff's relationship with Victor INJ. Second, that the sheriff retaliated against Deputy Sheriff's Association President Deputy Carlos Tapia. Third, that the sheriff unlawfully caused to be arrested Deputy Tapia without probable cause. And then finally, fourth, that the sheriff retaliated against Captain Brian Phillip. The Board of Supervisors and the sheriff have received Judge Emerson's advisory opinion. As to today's proceedings, I note that the procedures governing the removal process provide that the board will independently review the hearing officer's advisory opinion and the administrative record, and that after review of the advisory opinion, the board will vote to determine whether, by a preponderance of the evidence, there is cause to remove the sheriff. The administrative record in this case includes the transcript of the appeal hearing and all of the exhibits admitted at the hearing. I note that the board has had these documents since September 11th. The board members were provided with all the other materials in the administrative record on October 2nd of 2025. Because the procedures required the board to review and consider action on the advisory opinion, we have agendized and brought this matter to you today. Staff has prepared for the board's consideration a form of resolution and a document entitled Board's Final Decision After Removal Hearing to allow the board to take action today if the board decides to adopt as its own the rationale of the hearing officer in finding cause to remove. That said, I want to note that the board retains full discretion with respect to its final decision after removal hearing, and the board may take any action that it believes appropriate in light of its review of the advisory opinion and the administrative record, including voting to remove the sheriff or declining to vote to remove the sheriff. If based on the advisory opinion and the administrative record, the board believes that it should reach conclusions different from those reached by the hearing officer, or that removal is unwarranted, the board can direct staff, and staff will prepare a resolution that reflects the board's conclusions and its direction. I want to note that Jan Little, who's a partner with the firm of Kecker, Van Nest, and Peters, is here today should any questions regarding the notice of intent, the appeal hearing, or the administrative record arise, and if I'm unable to address them myself. So happy to have Ms. Little here today. That said, I'm available to address any questions that the board may have.
Great. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll now take public comment on these items. We'll go ahead and start with the council for the sheriff. We'll ask the clerk to help us take public comment on these two items. Let's set the timer at 30 minutes.
Good morning, members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Niblin, Ms. Little. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for this opportunity to talk to you and give you our version of the events that have taken place throughout this process. But I'm going to start by saying it has been an honor and will be an honor to continue representing Sheriff Christina Corpus. She's an incredible law enforcement officer who served this county for 30 years in different capacities. In addition to that, she's a mother, she's a daughter, but she is a dedicated civil servant who wants to make change in this county. It is an honor to be her counsel along with my team. You're going to hear from our team today, but I want to set the tone for you or set the table. And thank you for 30 minutes. We may go a little over, we may try to go over because it takes a lot here. I want to tell you what Sheriff Corpus has had to endure since becoming the sheriff in this county. In a conversation between myself, Wilson Leung, one of our attorneys, and an elected sheriff in a nearby county, he said, quote unquote, Sheriff Corpus has had a target on her back since the day she was elected. During the course of the hearing, you heard from one of the county's witnesses who wanted to be on her command staff, a former member of the command staff of the sheriff's office. Kiernan, he says, quote unquote, I wanted to be on her staff. I wanted to help her to protect her from sabotage. Sabotage. They talked a little bit about after the election, there was a shredding party amongst the prior sheriff's staff. What were they shredding? We also heard testimony that from Acting Assistant Sheriff Matthew Fox, that the sheriff's own captains did not want her to succeed. Her own captains did not want her to succeed. So we've got a target on her back. We have sabotage. We have her own captains did not want her to succeed. You probably don't all know this. In addition to that, Acting Assistant Sheriff Fox testified, and this is very sad for me, as a 10-year federal prosecutor and a 10-year state prosecutor and 13-year police commissioner in San Francisco, a gang prosecutor, an organized crime prosecutor, to hear not only testimony, but to see in writing where former Assistant Sheriff Fox said what the sheriff was dealing with was a gang. A gang. To hear a fellow law enforcement officer refer to other law enforcement officers as a gang strikes at the core of what we do in the criminal justice system. We also heard testimony from individuals who have been in other law enforcement agencies that they've never seen such a level of insubordination. Insubordination in a law enforcement agency that relies upon a paramilitary structure. So where did that get us? So that got us between a target on her back, sabotage, captains working against her, insubordination in a gang. It led to the infamous Cordell report, which you'll hear a lot about. Been totally discredited. Should be thrown out. It's not worth the paper it's on. Has no legal significance, but it got us to Measure A. It got us to where it is. And in fact, what our concern is, we've been trying to get all the documents related to the Cordell report. We've had to sue for that. The judge has ordered it. The county is not providing it. What is the county hiding? What are they hiding? Why can't we have that? Why are they dragging their feet? They've been ordered by the court to give it to us. But if you make a decision today, it may be too late. She's also had to deal with unprecedented interference that we learned through the course of the trial of people going to the county executive, who's not a sworn member of the sheriff's department, was a former law enforcement officer and should know better. But people went to him. There was testimony where he was giving advice. He was talking to people, going behind the sheriff's back. So let's put that together. Sabotage, unprecedented interference, captains, gang, insubordination, interference. We get Measure A on the ballot. And sadly, it also misled some of you. It misled you, the members of the board. That report's been discredited, everything from financial improprieties to all these different things. Discredited. And what did it do? By the way, Measure A was unopposed. 23% of the voters voted for it. It led to these proceedings. We objected to the rules for these proceedings. We objected to the hearing officers. We asked for retired judges. We got one in the packet. Because what you're about to do here is unprecedented. It's unwarranted. You're about to hear it's unconstitutional. You were misled by the whole Cordell report. And the problem was you weren't properly trained, as I was as a police commissioner, when you sit and review cases involving law enforcement officers and their possible removal. We were instructed, you do not talk publicly or share your opinions publicly regarding that matter, whether it's an officer-involved shooting or it's misconduct by an officer. We were taught by the San Francisco city attorneys, you're going to sit in a quasi-judicial capacity and decide on that. You cannot say anything. And there's been a couple times where commissioners had to recuse themselves from the vote because they've made public statements. And I've spoken with this. We said it numerous times to the court, and the courts have always said, we said that unfortunately, Commissioner Corsia and Commissioner Mueller can't vote on this. I know you need 4/5, but they can't. They have made public statements accusing the sheriff of many things. They have found her guilty from day one back in November with their press conferences. They've asked for the removal. So if they were jurors and I was a judge picking a case, they would be removed for cause. They cannot vote. As judges sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity, they would be removed immediately. And for those of us who practice law, I know Supervisor Spear has a law degree. I know that Supervisor Mueller has a law degree in practice. If we were to go to court on this, we would stand up and under California Civil Procedure Section 170.6, what is done frequently in this courthouse and others, we would challenge the judge and ask that the judge be removed for bias and prejudice. And we would stand there and swear to the court that we think that they're biased and prejudiced against our client. And I, as an officer of the court, stand here today, and I will read to you some of the statements, and I will hand deliver a letter to you, President Camp. I ask that you move to recuse them. I'll approach your counsel and hand it to him.
Sir, if you have other things, I can go ahead and take that from you and share.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And actually, we'd want to have maybe 8 copies. That's our ordinary practice as published when you have things that you want to give the board. So,
I've got another one for you, sir.
Over here, sir. Thank you.
And this is for your consideration when you go in closed session to debate this issue or discuss it. But some of the statements. Supervisor Corzio, you'll see these in there. These allegations from the Cordell report have been substantiated. Again, that she doesn't tell the truth. She basically, I'm going to summarize these, calls the sheriff a liar. She doesn't tell the truth. She should be removed immediately. If that's not prejudging the facts, there's nothing better. Supervisor Mueller, who's an attorney, probably should know better, made comments about the guilt that the sheriff should resign immediately. We also have a tape recorded statement from Supervisor Corzio to the sheriff, where she says, you need to resign now. Subpoenas are going to start to fly. We also know that Supervisor Mueller reached out to the mayor of Millbrae and said, you need to do a vote of no confidence now. That automatically recuses you from this matter. You can't vote. We've brought this up with the court numerous times. The court says, it's not ripe. It's not ripe. If you vote today, it's gone from ripe to rotten. And we'll go back to the courts immediately because it's going to be ripe. And I'll turn this over to my colleagues. In my career, I've never seen such a political hack job. I don't know who started it. Some people said it was a power grab. But I truly feel in the deep of my heart, based upon 33 years involved in law enforcement, that I think some of the members of the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office and some members of the political insiders in this county have a hard time having a Hispanic woman run this department. And I don't say that lightly. I implore you to make the right decision on this by starting with recusing Supervisors Corzo and Mueller from the vote. I'll turn it over to my co-counsel, Tom Perez.
Good morning, Supervisors. Thank you for allowing us to speak this morning. And I will be referring to you as members of the jury because you're really sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity. This is the jury today. And as someone who's tried dozens of cases across the country, I will refer to you as members of the jury because that's exactly what you are. We're living in a parallel universe. Think about it. Go back to 2022. Sheriff, the then Captain Corpus, who worked her way up, overcame so many barriers, including barriers from within, officers who disrespected her, a deputy who came up to her when she was captain, grabbed her by her ponytail, whispered something in her ear that was unspeakable, and I won't mention it. And that person got a day or two on the bricks. That is a bellwether of the culture she confronted. You talk to community members. They wanted change. They wanted a new way. They wanted a sheriff's office that respected the community, engaged the community. And when I say we're living in a parallel universe, that's what the sheriff promised. 21st century policing. The community will have a seat at the table. The most fundamental job a sheriff does is keep you safe. Look at the crime rates. One of the more remarkable aspects of our administrative hearing was when I elicited testimony about the crime rates and counsel objected, saying it was irrelevant. There's nothing more relevant than reducing crime in this community. Crime is down. Her predecessor said, I've had more trouble than any time in my 40 years of law enforcement hiring people. Well, guess what? She cracked the code on that. Over 260 people hired. They're not the folks who are calling you. There's a difference between amplitude and numerosity. You are hearing from loud folks, but they do not reflect the remarkable people day in and day out. 265 people she hired. They get calls from other jurisdictions asking them, how did you do this? And they reflect the community. 3 weeks into her tenure, the worst mass shooting in this county's history. You talk to the community, she was spectacular. Spectacular. There every day for everyone. And so that's why I say we're living in a parallel universe. Culture change is hard. I know that. I've run some pretty big agencies. And I knew that I had forces of opposition. They don't want you to succeed. And from day one, there were folks who did not want her to succeed. And you know what? That's why we're here today. You know, you have had a number of options, but one thing that is clear to me is that the defining principle was you wanted to create a provision that would enable you to establish the lowest possible bar for removal. And that's what you have done. You could have done differently. You could have done what happened in Santa Clara County. They had an issue with the sheriff. They went to a civil grand jury. They trusted the community. The community, when they were about to issue their verdict, she stepped down because she saw the handwriting on the wall. Look at San Francisco. There was an issue with the sheriff, a very serious issue involving allegations of domestic violence. They established very rigid protocols to ensure that the jury would not comment on the case, to ensure that it wasn't one body that had the power to be the judge, the investigator, the jury, and the executioner. And you know what happened in that case? He's no longer the sheriff. They trusted the process, and the process worked. You are about to establish a precedent that's very dangerous, which is that you've got to win the county lottery to get basic due process protections if you are an elected sheriff. And you could have done this. And there's a couple things I hope when you deliberate, I suspect you don't know this. But your counsel has repeatedly referred in various pleadings and hearings to, we're just following what San Bernardino County did. Well, folks, let me read to you a paragraph of the San Bernardino County ordinance. The removal of an elected county officer is an extraordinary act and should occur only in the most egregious of circumstances and only when the interests of the citizens of the county cannot be reasonably served by any other means. These circumstances include the exposure of the county or its employees to irreparable harm. Why am I reading this to you? You didn't include this in your ordinance. You cite, we're just following San Bernardino, but you didn't follow San Bernardino's language because you lowered the bar for removal by taking this out. You also did not heed an attorney general opinion of 2001. I've seen that nowhere in the record because they asked for an advisory opinion. And as you know, you can get advisory opinions from the attorney general about new things that you're doing. And there was a concern about laws of this nature. And this is what the attorney general said. And as you deliberate, I would ask that you provide that opinion to the jurors, Mr. Niblin. This is what it says. The power to provide for the removal of a county officer for cause would not include the power to direct the manner in which the duties of such office are performed. For example, the exercise of investigative and prosecutorial discretion that is constitutionally and statutorily co-signed to the sheriff and district attorney would not provide cause for removal by the Board of Supervisors. I hope you will read that because you're not heeding that. And these opinions are entitled, as we have seen in the case law, to deference. And we will be talking about these as we move forward to the extent that you make a judgment to remove her. I don't understand why the community doesn't get a voice. You know, after the infamous brothel incident, the former district attorney, Michael Murphy, said he is an elected and accountable to the electorate. So in other words, that brothel was a low moment, we can stipulate, in the history of this esteemed county. And his response was, let the voters decide. That's not what's happening here. You have lowered the bar as much as possible, but you've lowered it beyond the realm of constitutional protection. She lost if you remove her, she lost the county lottery. If she were in San Francisco or elsewhere, she would get more protections. That's not how this system should operate, but that's exactly what you are contemplating here moving forward. And and what's interesting is, even with that low bar, Judge Emerson, who we didn't have any say, you gave us 3 names. We tried to give you names, but it's like, nope, these are our names. Take it or leave it. We didn't have any choice. And he dismissed all but 3 or so of them under that lowest bar. And the Tapia case is a perfect example of prosecutorial discretion. The evidence, and you can read the record, is very clear that she was advised by folks. You're smirking, juror. I apologize, but I just was making eye contact with you. And I would simply note that I hope you review the full record, including an email that we got from Karen Rosenthal, your county counsel, who is walled off and is investigating the internal matter of Mr. Tapia. And based on the findings of the investigator and my knowledge of the historic levels of discipline in the sheriff's office, I believe that an arbitrator would uphold a moderate level of discipline. I'm confident that you may not have seen that. I hope you take a look at that in your deliberations. I made a lot of tough choices when I was labor secretary and civil rights division, hiring, etc. And the purpose of that AG opinion is to educate you on the fact that the day-to-day running of a department is not cause for removal. And that is the reality of our situation. And that is why we feel so strongly about our case, because we're losing sight of where things are. I don't think you should be afraid of the judgment of this community. They spoke clearly in 2022. And I hope you read the testimony of RJ, who is a community leader, I think in your district, Supervisor Mueller. His testimony was really compelling. It reminded him of growing up as a Black man in discriminatory communities. And he was so excited at the progress they made. He described the fact that he was taught to run away from the police. And under Sheriff Corpus's leadership, they're now embracing the community. You don't have to be scared. And he feels like we are moving way backward. We are losing sight of where things are right now. And you are about to set a precedent that will define your legacy. I think that is the case. And you are about to, I guess I would ask you to do a number of things before you make a final decision. I hope you will read the AG opinion, because it is on all fours with what is going on here. I hope you will look at the San Bernardino County ordinance that was the ordinance that was the basis of this particular resolution. And you will see that it's missing a very important paragraph. And the reason it's missing it is because you lowered the bar, and you did so deliberately. And I hope you will examine, frankly, your conscience. I hope you will ask yourself that real question that, you know, if you were on trial right now, or a loved one of yours was on trial right now, and you heard what other people who are members of the jury have already said, would you feel comfortable? Would you think that's fair? And I hope you understand that the culture change is not easy. And if you are going to give through this, and make no mistake about it, the universe of target for this ballot initiative that you passed is one person. And you have a sunset date. If you only had 4-year terms, you may not have done it, but you have 6-year terms, and you don't want her here for 6 years. I mean, that was made very clear, very, very clear. And this will define your legacy. And so many of you have had a legacy of inclusion, of opportunity. I asked the sheriff, you know, how do you get up in the morning? What motivates you? And she said 2 things to me, Mr. President: my faith, my family, my commitment to all women in this county that, yeah, they can try and push you around, but I am going to stand up for a county that works for everyone. I hope you will take stock of the remarkable progress that has been made under her watch. That is undeniable. The crime stats don't lie. The hiring stats don't lie. The fact that our sheriff's office looks like the community finally doesn't lie. The fact that she's investing in mental health treatment. Your biggest mental health facility is the county jail, and she's investing there. All of that progress you want to throw out to allow the old guard to come back. That's not justice. That's not due process. That's not consistent with so much of what people in this table have done throughout their career to champion opportunity. I frankly wish that the sheriff and you all had had a better opportunity to get to know each other better. You know, and that's on her, and that's on all of us. That's on her, and I would argue that's on you. We didn't do that enough. That's very clear. Because if you knew the sheriff that I've gotten to know, if you knew the sheriff that the residents of Half Moon Bay know and revere after what she did for them, if you knew what she had to do, one of the allegations was there was mishandling of internal affairs complaints. And that's one of the many that he dismissed. And you know what? Here's the problem with internal affairs complaints that she's trying to fix. There is disproportionate discipline against deputies of color because of the current system. 21st century policing does not allow for that. And by the way, 21st century policing allows for people who are not sworn officers to serve in leadership positions because they bring things to the table that are important. You look at San Francisco, you look at New York, you look at any modern police department, and they have people like Mr. Allende, who didn't go to the academy in the same way that sheriffs did, but they are in leadership positions. And by the way, he had the lowest paid position in the C-suite. You know, the allegations of favorable treatment. Look at the record. I hope you'll take that look. I hope you'll examine your conscience. I hope you will ask the question, is this the legacy I want to carry as a member of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors? History was made in 2022. A very clear signal was sent by the voters. And as the former district attorney said, it ought to be the voters that decide. And speaking of district attorneys, in connection with Mr. Tapia, one of the most remarkable meetings I had was with my colleague Tip and the district attorney, and I think Mr. Niblin was there. And we were talking about Mr. Tapia. And we were having a conversation about the fact that he has criminal exposure. And the response of the district attorney, I know. But you're here saying he's been retaliated against. Folks, read the entire record. Read the remarks of an assistant county attorney who has conducted a full investigation or overseen that investigation. This will define your legacy, whether you want it to or not. And as someone who's spent a lot of time over a lot of years in this space, is she perfect? No. Has she made mistakes? Absolutely. Who hasn't made mistakes? But you know what? She's made so much progress. And the people in Half Moon Bay, many of whom are low income, they don't have the means to come up here and lose a day of work so they can spend time testifying. They wish they did. But the RJs of the world and others speak for them. And I appreciate your presence, appreciate your leadership, and we will be continuing. I hope we can end this at the end of the day and sit down and work together to figure out how we address the fundamental job of this sheriff's office, which is how do you lower crime? How do you ensure constitutional policing? How do you incorporate 21st century principles of policing. That's what she's done. And you have to think about not just the voices of the loud, but the voices of those 265 employees who knew about the sheriff, learned about the sheriff, and are inspired by her example. Do not allow amplitude to trump numerosity. This county has made great progress. The facts bear it out. Do you want to reverse that progress? I hope not. And I'm going to turn it for the last word to the sheriff. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Jerry, let me run the meeting. You can add an additional 5 minutes.
Good morning, voters of San Mateo County. I stand before you not just as the sheriff of San Mateo County, but as a woman of faith, a mother, a public servant who refused to compromise what is right for what is easy. For over 30 years, I have dedicated my life to public service, to this county, to our residents, and to the badge I've worn with honor. I rose through the ranks of this very organization with an unblemished record, serving with integrity and faith in a system I believed could change for the better. But over time, I came to see the truth. The corruption, the favoritism, and bias had become the silent language of power in this county. And I made a promise that if I ever had the privilege to lead, I would not stay silent. So I ran for sheriff, not because it was easy, because it was right. I was the first woman in the history of San Mateo County to have the courage to stand up against the old guard. I faced retaliation, intimidation, smear campaigns, but I prevailed because the people believed in reform and they believed in me. The victory wasn't just mine, it was the people's. This isn't just about me, it's about every voter who placed their faith in change. When the political establishment can overturn an election because they dislike the result, democracy itself is at risk. The people's voice must never be silenced by those who hold the power of bureaucracy. This isn't just retaliation against me, it's betrayal of the voters who demanded honesty, transparency, and fairness in law enforcement. When you punish a reformer, you punish the very people who believed government could do better. When I took office, I didn't come to preserve a comfort zone. I came to dismantle the good old boy system that rewarded loyalty over merit, silence over integrity, and politics over public service. Reform isn't a slogan, it's a battle. And when you challenge those who have long benefited from the shadows, they fight back. I pushed for accountability, I demanded professionalism. I built fairer hiring processes that opened doors to women and people of color who have been shut out for decades. I refused to hand out promotions as political favors or rewards for silence. And that's when the backlash began. The same individuals who thrived under the old system, who feared oversight and rejected progress, began conspiring to take back control. When they couldn't control me, they decided to destroy me. This is not justice, it's political retribution. This board, the county executive, and the county attorney have become judge, jury, and executioner based on a deeply flawed, hearsay-filled report that could never survive a day in court. Even District Attorney Steve Wagstaff said the Cordell report is inadmissible as evidence. Retired Judge Burke Strunsky called it methodologically unsound. Yet, this county, the the same one that once defended a sheriff who was caught in an FBI Operation Dollhouse sting with underage human trafficking victims, now finds it righteous to execute a witch hunt against the first woman ever elected to this office for, at best, personnel matters. When the system protects the powerful and punishes reformers, it's not justice. It's tyranny in slow motion. What changed? The power structure was challenged, not by another politician, but by a woman who refused to play their roles. When I refused to bow to political interference, when I protected whistleblowers, when I demanded transparency, I became a threat. Let's be honest. This isn't about accountability, it's about control. The county executive, Mike Callaghy, who handpicked retired Judge Cordell, never told me that the so-called inquiry he initiated was actually targeting me. He violated his duty to act in good faith. County Attorney John Niblin broke his duty as an officer of the court by depriving me of legal representation during the Cordell inquiry and this board's effort to amend the charter. And you didn't stop there. They went after my chief of staff, Dr. Victor Iyenjay, a man whose only offense was demanding efficiency and integrity in this office. If they can silence an elected woman who stood up for integrity, imagine what they can do to anyone who doesn't have a microphone or a platform. This entire process has been rushed, executed without due process, without transparency, and without respect for the will of the voters. Supervisors Corzo and Mueller made up their minds before any evidence was presented. They publicly defamed me, and Corzo even left me a threatening voicemail message. Their bias and personal ill will alone should have required recusal. Measure A, which now gives this board the authority to strip an elected sheriff of power, was funded by the very unions and county-affiliated nonprofits that had vested interest in my removal. That's unlawful and unethical under Measure A's own guidelines. Another major donor, AMR, holds a contract with the county, yet no one thinks that this is a violation and a conflict of interest. Meanwhile, the county has refused to comply with the court order to release documents that were crucial to my defense. Think about that. The same county government claiming to enforce accountability has ignored a judge's order. What message does that send to our residents? The county of San Mateo is above the law when it suits them? I have served this county for 3 decades. I grew up in the sheriff's office. I know its flaws, but I also know its promise. I ran for sheriff because I believed we could do better, be more transparent, more inclusive. But change threatens those who profit from old ways. The vote today is bigger than me. It will determine whether the people's voice, the vote that made me your sheriff, can be erased by political convenience. Whether truth and fairness still have a place here in San Mateo County. To those who voted for me, who believed that a woman could lead with strength and compassion, I thank you. To the deputies and staff who have endured retaliation for standing up for what's right, you stay strong. And to those who fear change, know this: truth cannot be buried and integrity cannot be silenced. To the men and women who wear the uniform with pride, remember why you serve. You serve the Constitution, not the convenience of politicians. You swore the same oath I did, to uphold justice without fear or favor. Don't let politics undo the purpose that brought you into this calling. I have sacrificed my peace, my marriage, and precious time with my children and family for this mission because I believe in justice. I believe good must overcome evil. I was offered the chance to walk away quietly, to take a payout and disappear. I refused because leadership isn't about convenience. It's about conviction. If I lose my position today, I will walk out with my head held up very high because I never betrayed the people who trusted me. I never compromised my values. I never bowed down to intimidation. And I never stop believing that reform is possible, even in the face of major corruption. But if you choose to do what's right, if you choose courage over comfort, you won't just be saving my job. You'll be saving faith in the system itself. You may remove me from office, but you will not erase the truth. You will not erase the courage of every deputy who dared to speak up, every mother who holds on to faith through pain, and every voter who still believes that justice is worth fighting for. I may lose my title, but I will never, ever lose my purpose to serve, to protect, and to stand for what's right. History will not remember those who yielded to fear. It will remember those who stood alone when standing alone was the only moral choice left. May God give you strength to choose good over evil, truth over comfort, and courage over power.
Thank you very much. We'll now move, I believe we have public comment. We could start right now in the chambers, and then we'll take remotely. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have 14 speakers from chambers. We did receive written comment, which was provided to the board and also put on the public agenda website. So we'll start with Sergeant David Widener, followed by Nancy Goodman.
Good morning, members of the board. Supervisor Spear, Supervisor Gaucher, President Canepa, Supervisor Corzo, Supervisor Mueller, County Executive Mr. Callaghy, Mr. Niblin, and Mrs. Rodriguez. Mr. President, I respectfully request that I could have 3 minutes, if that would be possible.
And who are you representing?
I'm just speaking on behalf of myself.
Proceed. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. My name is Sergeant David Widener, and I stand before you today not just as a proud employee with 25 years of service, but someone who's walked shoulder to shoulder with the brave men and women of this agency, day in and day out, in service to our community. And today, we are here with one message. It's time for change. I urge you with every fiber of my being to vote yes on the removal of Sheriff Christina Corpus. Our county deserves leadership rooted in honor, truth, and accountability, not corruption, deceit, and retaliation. Under Sheriff Corpus's leadership, we've witnessed a disturbing pattern emerge: corruption dressed in false promises, retaliation against those who dare to speak the truth, and worst of all, the false arrest of Carlos Tapia. Now, let me be clear in her words. That arrest was not about justice. It was about power. It was about silencing a voice. And that is not leadership. That is abuse of authority. Every lie chips away at the public trust. Every act of retaliation crushes morale, and every misuse of power poisons the very system that we are sworn to uphold. But today, together, we draw that line. Together, we say no more. No more threats, no more intimidation, no more corruption hiding behind the badge. Today, you have the opportunity to make history, to be the leaders who stood up not just for what was easy, but for what was right. You have the power to say that we will not let the brave men and women of this agency be harassed, threatened, or silenced. You have the support of this agency. You have the support of 94,900 people who voted yes on Measure A. And above all, you have the support of the justice system. By voting yes, you send a message loud and clear that in San Mateo County, nobody is above the law, not even the sheriff. By voting yes, you restore the public's faith that truth still matters, that fairness still matters, and that justice still matters. Our deputies deserve better, our community deserves better, and San Mateo County deserves better. So I urge you, stand with us, vote yes. Let us turn the page on this dark chapter. Let us rise united with leadership that serves the people with courage, with integrity, and with heart. Together as one, we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Thank you. Next, we have Nancy Goodman, followed by Deacon Lauren McCombs.
Hi, I'm Nancy Goodman. I live in Redwood City, and I am very sad to be here today. Like RJ and Stacy, bless you, who I do not agree with right now, and Elsa, I was a strong supporter of Christina. I loved that she brought in Chris Young and Ryan Monahan for her reform agenda, but look, they're gone. We need a new sheriff. I, like so many others, feel betrayed and disappointed. I'm so sorry to say. And I'm one of the 84% that voted for Measure A. Please involve the community if you choose to appoint a new sheriff. I hope you will listen to the deputies and the staff. They have suffered a toxic work environment. They deserve a new leader who recognizes their concerns. So does the community. This is also a chance to appoint a permanent inspector general, like other counties have, as real oversight is permitted by AB 1185, to proactively look at problems before they fester and come to this point. So I hope you can take that move as well. Thank you for your leadership and this difficult decision in front of you.
Thank you. Deacon, followed by Jim Lawrence.
Good morning to all who are present here this morning. My name is Deacon Lauren Patton McCombs, and I am currently serving at Christ Episcopal Church in Portola Valley and Woodside, and I'm a member of Peninsula Solidarity Cohort and Fixing San Mateo County. This is a tough day for our county, and I commend your service. The past years from Fixing, we haven't changed it. We want accountability, trust, and transparency within the sheriff's office. We want San Mateo County to have a permanent inspector general with subpoena power. If the county had followed our recommendations 4 years ago, we would have saved millions of dollars in attorney fees, given all of the numerous court cases surrounding the removal of Sheriff Corpus. I urge you to move forward and put this item on your next agenda. ICAC has already recommended a permanent inspector general. Please follow their recommendation. And thank you again for your service to the county.
Thank you. Jim Lawrence, followed by David Viagra. I believe we're taking all public comments at this time, so we're just taking them in order.
Good morning. Today is a historic day here in San Mateo County, a day that reminds all of us why leadership and courage really matters. Fixing San Mateo County, as you know, fully supports your action to remove Sheriff Corpus. But this must be a moment about more than removing one person. It must be about creating lasting accountability. In our opinion, the board cannot and should not attempt to oversee the sheriff's office alone. True oversight demands independence, expertise, and the public's trust. That's why we have AB 1185. Also, as you move to appoint a new sheriff, we ask that the process be open, transparent, and inclusive, reflecting the values and voices of the community you serve. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have David Viagra, followed by Nancy Goodman. And just a reminder, this is for all public comment for items 1 and 2.
Good morning. My name is David Valerga. It's noteworthy that at no time, not even today, did the sheriff or her counsel take any responsibility for placing you in the situation you're in today. The time has come to move forward with what the voters overwhelmingly authorized by voting on Proposition A. It's also a time of great danger to the county, the board, and the sheriff's department. You publicly stated that the board is responsible for oversight. To do this, you need the services of a permanent inspector general. You also need to be sure that the public is involved in the selection of a new sheriff. It's vitally important to get this right.
Thank you. We'll now go to Dan Stejink, followed by Martin Elliott.
Thank you, Supervisors. As the sole ballot opponent, committee member, and argument writer, I'd like to request 3 minutes for my presentation.
No.
Thank you. Measure A is not legal. California 13303 requires ballot materials, including the arguments against, to be delivered to the public 29 days before the election here. This is the best sheriff we've ever had. Certainly was never arrested at a brothel where underage Chinese sex slaves were being held in a cage in the backyard. That's the FBI report. I've been felony threatened. I've been felony impersonated. I was multiple times I've been death stared by Mr. Tapia at different events. This morning, Mr. Tapia followed me in and right behind the security line, posted a foot away on my six. Recusal is up to you, not the good Mr. Niblin. If he was going to recuse you, you would have had to recuse for the December 2024 pay raise that violated the county charter. Supervisor Spears should recuse for her relationship with county employee Ed Baccioccio. A long time ago, but page 100 of her good book, which I also recommend at 100%. Supervisor Corso should recuse for her position on CV 07936, the page 10, where she allegedly asked the sheriff to override a background check of her partner who allegedly was a sex offender. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much, Mr. Stengnick.
Martin Elliott, followed by Matthew Fronfeld.
Good morning. I'm Martin Elliott. I'm a Redwood City resident. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for the leadership you're going to show to the county.
Speaking to the mic, sir.
I am one of the 84% or the 90,000 people that voted in favor of Measure A. And I would implore you today to act on behalf of the 800 employees that represent the sheriff's district, the several 100,000 citizens of San Mateo County. And I'd also ask that you consider that today, from the sheriff's defense, you did not hear anybody push back on the facts of the case. There was a lot of distortion, there was a lot of fluff, but they can't push back on the facts that are at hand here. It's time to do the right thing for the county. I would also ask that you appoint an undersheriff that is not tied to the existing group that runs the sheriff's day. They need a clean, fresh start. I would also ask that we call for a special election, because I trust that the members of San Mateo County can vote for a new sheriff that will support 21st century policing, just not the one we have today. So let's trust the county residents. They can vote a new person that will do a good job. And I would also implore you, if I were a member of the supervisors, I would ask that the head of HR do a study and look at what personnel changes have taken place at the sheriff's department the last 8 to 9 months to make sure that we don't have other creeping litigation from others harmed by the actions that have happened. Get ahead of the other cases that you may not know about. And I think that could be done within 60 days. So thank you for your time and your attention to this important matter.
Thank you. Matthew Fronfeld, followed by Vanessa Limas Tapia.
I'd actually like to speak to this really quickly, if I could, Mr. President. Mr. Frohnfeld is associated with the law firm Murphy Pearson, which is representing the sheriff. So I thought you had allocated a half hour for the sheriff and her representative.
Thank you. Next speaker.
I would ask just for 1 minute as a member of the public, not as representative of the firm or as representative sheriff, and it won't be billed at all. This is on my time.
I'm going to give you a minute, okay?
All right, thank you. Good morning. I'm just going to address very quickly the things that I think haven't been covered this morning. If you look at the advisory opinion, Judge Emerson goes out of his way, like blinking red lights, to say, I have not found just cause. I've not found good cause. I'm only finding cause. Cause that was drafted by county council and that's below the standard. That is a blinking red light warning that he thinks this is not meeting due process. And this body has said, we believe everyone is due process. You've said that in public. But then in court, your counsel has gone and said she has no right to due process. Publicly, this body said you're about transparency. But in court, you refuse to disclose financial documents behind the Cordell report. This entire process is a litany of constitutional violations that will likely end up in a chapter in a textbook. You got ex post facto violations, bill of attainder violations, due process violations. If this continues, this will be written. I mean, this is a field day for a law professor. And the amount of litigation that will come from this, if this continues, is unjustified. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Okay, next, we also have a speaker card from, again, Tom Mazzuro, Tom Perez, Mariah Cooks, who are also the attorneys.
Well, I think we've already done that.
Thank you.
What do we have after them?
After that, we have Vanessa Limas Tapia.
Okay.
Good morning, Honorable Board of Supervisors, Mr. Callaghy, and members of the public. My name is Vanessa Lemos Tapia, and I've consistently come up here numerous times and concentrated on the wider impact this situation has had on our community. But today, I must finally address something I've held back. This sheriff has retaliated against my father. My father, who has dedicated decades of service to this county, missing holidays, birthdays, and continues to show up every single day despite being on admin leave, because he believes in this badge more than the sheriff ever will. Just think about how many individuals have been arrested and could be in county jail right now because this sheriff has a personal vendetta against them. We need a sheriff who serves the people, upholds the law, and acts in the best interest of all residents, not just a select few. Every day she remains in office, financial burdens grow, retaliation continues, and public safety suffers. For months, we've heard excuses and false narratives about overtime, captains being against her, missing Cordell pages, unprecedented interferences, about the so-called good old boys club, the Millbrae Mafia, and that 90,900 voters who supported Measure A somehow don't matter. Oh, and that this is unconstitutional. She even takes credit for the reduction in crime, while ignoring data from the California DOJ and FBI that shows jurisdictions across the state have experienced similar decreases because crime is down statewide, not because of her leadership. Let's be honest, almost every single injunction she's filed has been denied. The facts speak for themselves. That's the desperation from her legal team and this sheriff. It's all noise meant to distract from the truth. Let me be clear. This isn't biased from Noelia or Ray. It's about them doing what they were elected to do, something this sheriff never did, represent the people of San Mateo County. So Sheriff Corpus, because this will likely be the last time you're called sheriff, stop fighting this. The voters decided. The board did not lower the bar, you did. To the board, thank you for standing firm. Now finish what you started, vote yes, close this chapter, for my family, for this county, and restore trust, dignity, and integrity into this department. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next speaker.
Beth Von Emster, followed by Mitchell Smith.
Good morning. My name is Beth Von Emster, co-chair of the ACLU San Mateo County chapter. As you consider a final vote on removal of the current sheriff, two things need to happen next. Please commit to a permanent inspector general to monitor the sheriff's office. And if you choose to appoint the next sheriff, employ a process that involves the community deeply. The process should be completely public and offer an opportunity for community feedback on the candidates, much like Alameda County's Board of Supervisors did when it selected a replacement district attorney recently. Any candidates under serious consideration must be champions of the safety and liberty of all community members, regardless of immigration status, and be supportive of the appointment of an ongoing inspector general. These are indispensable next steps in promoting transparency and trust.
Thank you. Next.
Madam Clerk, before we take next speaker, I'll allow Mariah to speak. Go ahead, Mariah.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, I could not sleep much last night, and I wrestled with the Holy Spirit and asked him for a word. This is a Bible that the sheriff, when she came to her office 2 days after the advisory opinion came out, she brought me because that is the type of person she is. In a moment where she should be thinking about herself, she thinks about others. And this is a word that the Lord gave me. This is what the Lord says. As for the prophets who lead my people astray, they proclaim peace if they have something to eat, but prepare to wage war against anyone who refuses to feed them. Therefore, night will come over you without visions, and darkness without divination. The sun will set for the prophets, and the day will go dark for them. The seers will be ashamed, and the diviners disgrace. They will all cover their faces because there is no answer from God. But as for me, I am filled with power, with the Spirit of the Lord, and with just and with might. That is what you saw today. You saw a woman, a human being who has waged war against her for the last 2 years. And she should be broken, but she's not. She stands here stronger than she's ever been. While all this war has been waged against her, she has gotten baptized. And not just her son made the decision to get baptized. Her faith today is stronger than it's ever been. And regardless of your decision today, this is just a chapter in her story. And so I do urge you to do the right thing. She did the right thing, which is why she stood here, because she was elected and voted by the community. And that is why she gets up every single day. So thank you. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Mitchell Smith, followed by RJ Jennings.
The gratitude of the correspondence is with the positive hyphen volition by this banker hyphen judge hyphen post hyphen master. I have paid the fee for the freight to be in this port. My live life claim serves as the bill of the lading, to serve as my ticket to board this foreign warship. In recent time, the Sheriff's Department SWAT team has asked me to represent them, not the Sheriff's Department of San Mateo. I have new evidence that the sheriff is being wrongly accused. I am going to be given time to present that evidence. I am putting this committee on timeout to give me a minimum of 30 days to finish my investigation into this case. I am the highest ranking judge in California. I have my oath, my federal oath is on file with this court.
If you could talk to the board, thank you. We can wrap up.
I am here to show only honor and respect, and I am here to make San Mateo a safe zone. Anybody committing any crimes in San Mateo, it is going to be double the penalty. That's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. RJ Jennings, followed by Stacy McCarthy.
Morning. Good morning. It's a sad day for me to be here in front of you having this discussion. I assume, like the first participant, I'll have up to 3 minutes. First of all, I'm disappointed.
It's 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, it's 1 minute, but I think you gave the first person 3 minutes.
Please don't use your time. If we can continue, thank you.
So, unless I look different than him, I'm sorry. I'm disappointed in the board that you're taking this out of the voters' hands. This is not your decision. It's not what we elected you to do. And that this is the public's decision. This idea that you're going to save us money by shortcutting this, how's that working out for you? So we're paying a lot more financially, emotionally, than what is really in our system, which is a recall. And this country has a history of finding shortcuts, especially in how we treat marginalized individuals. We find a way to shortcut this. My grandfather faced it, that the members of the KKK that rode on his land and burned his barn down were on what they would call the Board of Supervisors. They knew who was doing it. And still today, we're shortcutting it. And none of us are immune to this. This can turn on any of us at any time if we don't look like those in these ties. It's what we face. Under Mr. Callagy's guidance, I fear that we're going back to fear. That the training that the collaboration, that the work we've been doing with our sheriff's department locally has improved my relationship with the public.
If you can wrap up.
I was taught as a Black male how to be with law enforcement. And Sheriff Corpus is changing that. And whether the vote for the people is to take her out of office or not, I can live with that. I can't live with your vote taking that out. My 6-year-old is now having conversations with law enforcement. It's a whole, it's a very different
RJ?
environment.
10 seconds. Thank you.
And I will end here, but I will say, majority of the time people were speaking, your eyes were down. That our communication, 80% is nonverbal. And I have not seen your eyes up paying attention to us who are speaking to you.
Thank you very much for your public comment. Next speaker.
Sure, Mr. President. We'll now go to Stacy McCarthy, followed by Jose Reyes.
Good morning, Supervisor Spear. Good morning, Supervisor Gautier. Good morning, President Canepa. Good morning, Ms. Corzo. Hello, Mr. Mueller, Mr. Calgi. I am very sad to be standing in front of you today, but I am going to respect your request for time. I would ask you to consider 2 things. All of the allegations that have been, the number of allegations that have been laid at Sheriff Corpus's feet and have not been proven. The volume that were presented to the public and remain on the county's website, as far as I know, they did a couple months ago, is the basis for the power that you've been given today under Measure A. Misinformation gives you that power. And that's not right. Please do not do what you shouldn't do to remove a duly elected sheriff who is delivering measurable improvements. You've heard of it. You heard it today. Improvement in so many things. I urge you, please, Supervisor Spear, to stand on the right side of history. I know that you have in so many areas. A woman of faith, and this most courageous woman that I've seen lead our sheriff's department to a different place. Culture change is hard. Please do the right thing today. Please, I implore you for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Jose Reyes, followed by Victor Rangel.
Through the clerk, how many speakers do we have in?
We have 3 more
Great.
speaker slips.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to see you guys. I didn't intend on coming here today. I was led. My name's Jose Reyes. I live in a homeless shelter. I'm going through a workers' comp case by a company, Metro Electric, who did a lot of ugly and trying to break me down. I bring some issues to Ms. Corpus and her crew about some things that happened to me while in custody. I don't speak about anything else on everything else. I just know things didn't happen. So I come to a point in my life where, okay, let it go, move on and start a new future. And I believe that's what we're doing here today. We're moving on and we're starting a new future. I just hope that whatever you guys decide, because you guys have been, my whole world's changed. So I thank you guys. But I also ask for transparency so that some of the things that happened to me in the past that are happening to me with this company that I worked for, that happened in law enforcement, won't happen again. You know, I've let it go. I put it to rest. But I don't want what happened to me to happen to anyone else. So I'm asking, whatever decision you make, just make it to where we'll all be safe. No matter if we're on the streets or if we're behind bars. Law enforcement was here to take care of us and keep us safe. So let's just make it so that it stays that way. That's all I want to say.
Great.
And thank you for what you guys done in my life.
Thank you, Jose. Next speaker.
Victor Rangel, followed by our last speaker, Arnold Morales.
Hello, good morning. My name is Victor Rangel, and I would like to say some kind words about our Sheriff Christina Corpus. She's made a big impact on my son's life and our community, especially our low income and our Hispanic community from where I'm a little nervous. Sorry, I'm getting the chills. I just would like to say that she's made an impact, for her coming into our church, doing a lot of events for our kids. She, when I say that she's made a big impact on my son, is where she chose him to be part of the Shop with the Hero or thing that you guys do on a yearly thing, and he came home crying that day of happiness of the impact of the experience that he experienced doing that, and she's touched his heart. And so my other daughter, I mean, I would hate for her to go, or something happened to her, where she won't have her job anymore, because I feel like she's impacted us in a good way, and especially when I say in our community is, it's more of like, we grew up in our Hispanic community afraid of the police, afraid of the sheriffs, afraid of communicating, and she's came into our church and spoke up and said, you guys could more than welcome to calls for anything and everything. And for me, that means a lot, because I've never seen a sheriff do that. I grew up in Half Moon Bay my whole life, and for her to do that, sorry, I'm really nervous right now. It just, I'm here to support her. I'm here, as a person, as a dad, as a community member. And I want her to know that we love her and she's amazing. And I would please reconsider your guys' decision today. And thank you so much.
Thank
Is
you
there
so much.
any kind words you want to say me? Don't be embarrassed, puppy.
I think he summed it all up.
Thank you so
okay?
much.
Next speaker.
Thank you. Our last speaker card from Chambers is Arnold Morales.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I will also be very nervous as I'm not a public speaker. But just to mirror what the last speaker said, I'm sorry, my name is Arnold Morales, and I live in this community for about 40 years in the North Fair Oaks area. I have seen change from when Miss Christina came in. I hear a lot of good stories, just like the one we heard from our community. And I'd love to say a lot more, but I don't have time. What I like to say, though, is that it is obvious that our law enforcement needs some type of supervision. Any way you dice it, and whatever decision you make today, one thing to be apparent, that either the sheriff and her errors and the actions that she took, that some feel rise to the level of corruption. And on the other side, we have everybody else that is against her. So any way we slice it, it is obvious that one side or the other is corrupt. Nobody can disagree in that. One is the sheriff, and then the rest is the law enforcement that is against her. One or the other is corrupt. I will caution everybody to listen to whatever side you're listening to and make your decision based on very blurry knowledge, right? And the last thing I want to say is that it's opportunity to move forward and think about oversight. And the last thing, as one of your speakers was saying, I would really encourage you to really think, because the truth always comes. The truth will always be known. Early or later, the truth will be known. And I hope that this body, with all the good that's done for San Mateo County, when we look back in history, we know that you were on that right side, and you're not part of what we're discussing today, which is corruption.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That sums it up for the comments from Chambers. So now we'll go take comments from Zoom. Again, we're taking comments for both items.
Madam Clerk, before
Yes.
we take comments from Zoom, I've been asked for a 5-minute break from one of the members here.
Absolutely.
So we'll do is we're going to recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll be right back. Thank you.
Sure. The time is now 10:44 a.m. and the board will take a brief recess.
Good morning, board. You're muted and I'm not. So would you be willing to let me know that you can hear me?
Apologies. Yes, I'm so sorry about that. Yes, we have called the meeting to order and all supervisors are present, and we're now taking public comment at this time. And public comment is limited to the identified agenda items only, which are items 1 and 2, and we'll take comments for both at this time. So Debbie, please go ahead and begin.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I would like to come before you as one of the people of California under California Constitution, Article 1, Section 3, that gives me the right and the duty to instruct our servants that have sworn an oath to the Constitution to uphold it. My question to you is, please show that the county charter or the California legislature law is higher than the California Constitution. If you cannot, and you remove this sheriff, you will be in violation of the people. What is an insurrection? And I need to tell you that there is no immunity for unofficial acts. You have an official act as a duly elected county board of supervisors to follow the Constitution. No one else took your job except you, and you are the only one that can vote and uphold the Constitution by not removing the sheriff of this county. You are, if you do, you are at war with the people and you are in insurrection. And with that, I would expect you to follow the Constitution as you swore an oath to God. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. We'll now go to Catherine Carter, followed by Karina Merrick.
Through the clerk, can I get a last call for speakers?
Oh, yes, Mr. President. At this time, members of the public on Zoom, this is a final call to raise your hand for public comment, and I will announce that final name that we will take. Okay, final call has been made, and the last speaker will be James Johnson. Okay, Catherine Carter, please proceed.
This meeting is under de facto government, conducted by officers under oath to constitutions. Where do you have constitutional authority to depose duly elected sheriff whom impartial judges affirm she upholds constitutions that defends the rights of the people, the life, liberty, and property? By what authority have you usurped the people's right to remove our trustee, Sheriff Christina Corpus? You call her defiant. The people call her courageous to stand on the constitutions to protect our rights. Good government instituted for the common good provides security of the people, nation, or community. What you decide today affects the entire nation. What will you choose? Usurpation of or your duty to secure rights of the people? Keep God-fearing Sheriff Christina Corpus in her rightful office. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Karina Merrick, followed by Sandy M. Karina, please unmute and begin.
Hi, I'm Karina Merrick from Redwood City. I want to thank the board for working to fix issues in the sheriff's office and commend the work of the investigators, but it has taken more than a year and millions of dollars to enforce any sort of accountability. That is not okay. Everything the board has done to date has been reactive, starting only after the situation was already out of control. Not 1 ounce of prevention has been implemented to avert a crisis like this happening in the future. At this point, there is simply no reasonable excuse for not hiring a permanent inspector general to monitor the sheriff's office as explicitly authorized by state law. As far as I am concerned, any person opposing this obvious step is complicit in maintaining the wall of secrecy and unaccountability around our sheriff's office that has brought us to this point. The people of this county deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll now go to Sandy M, followed by Zoom user. Sandy, please unmute and begin. Sandy M.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hello?
Yes, please begin.
I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Sandy, and I am one of We the People. I am here in support of Sheriff Corpus, in support of our constitutions, and here to remind you of your oaths of office. What you are doing is not pursuant to the constitutions, the highest law of the land. Creating Measure A is not in your jurisdiction, and misleading the citizenry to think it's so is deceptive. Going further and appointing individuals that are to be elected by the people is also not in your jurisdiction, and the citizenry is not aware. These acts are unofficial, and as in Trump v. US, there is no immunity for unofficial acts. There is still time to recuse yourselves and walk away. Still time to uphold your oaths to protect and defend both the US and California constitutions. There is still time to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to Zoom user, followed by Aisha Barrow. Zoom user, please proceed. Zoom user, if you can unmute your microphone. Okay, we'll come back to you. Aisha Barrow, please unmute your microphone.
Hello, my name is Aisha Barrow, and I was once of the most fervent supporters of Sheriff Christina Corpus. I'm a Half Moon Bay resident who introduced her to many of the folks that are currently standing by her side in Half Moon Bay, including RJ, Stacy, and Joaquin. I'm also a woman, a Black woman, an immigrant, a single mom to a Black child, and a leader called to inspire a team. I understand bias. I have faced it over and over in my career. And how you overcome bias is by winning them over. Christina has failed at that. She has failed at the #1 job of a leader, period. I started off defending Christina in public forums, but at every corner, what I saw from her in return was denial and lack of accountability for her mistakes. And along the way, she lost me too as a supporter based on her own actions and lack of leadership maturity. Christina, as someone who truly cares about you, I wish you could see it's time for you to go. Choose your fate and surrender. We admire the strength you showed during your campaign. You did the unimaginable in 2022, and now it's time to go. This chapter of your career is over, but you are much more than this job. It's time to make the next chapter of your life the best one yet. Supervisors, I urge you to vote for the removal of Sheriff Corpus today. This is the only way to end this long saga. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now try Zoom user one last time. Zoom user, please unmute and begin. Okay. Mr. President, I'll go ahead and lower that hand if that's okay. Okay. We'll now go to Administrator. Please unmute and begin.
Yes, hi. My name is James Brown. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, hi. So after Sheriff Corpus was elected, she asked me to serve on her Sheriff's Activities League board, which I now am honored to be the chairperson for. Under the prior sheriff, his campaign manager was running as executive director, where she was actually arrested for stealing large amounts of money from the youth programs. That administration was marked by scandal after scandal. The Batmobile, the brothel in Vegas, drunk deputies transporting prisoners, and even thefts from the youth programs. All of it was tolerated and ignored. And one of the first things Sheriff Corpus did was call for an independent audit, which uncovered even more problems left behind by that same administration. So when I hear people talk about wanting a reset, I have to ask, what exactly does that mean? Are you talking about resetting and going back to the dysfunction and corruption that was just cleaned up? And when I hear people talk about a toxic work environment, I have to ask, what was it before if not toxic? When your own sheriff is arrested by the FBI and his campaign manager steals from kids and deputies are sent across state lines to use the power of the badge for political favors, what would you call that? And I was called to testify in the hearing before Judge Emerson. And during that hearing, Judge Emerson requested a copy of the Cordell report, and he was denied because it was not admissible. And the grand jury was also denied by the district attorney for the same reason. Yet this board told the public that that report was true and urged them to vote on Measure A based on that. And it still to this day sits on the county website presented as fact, even though it was never admissible in court or to the grand jury. And yet Judge Emerson, with the lowest standard possible, found 15 of the 18 allegations not sustainable. So I'd just like to ask, what exactly you're going to do today. It's not too late to do the right thing. It's not too late to regain our respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nilza Serrano had her hand up and went down, but I'll give her one try now. Nilza, please unmute and begin.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I was
Yes.
having problem with my. Thank you so much. My name is Nilsa Serrano, and on behalf of the Latino Equity and Diversity Initiative, we express our unequivocal and unwavering support for Sheriff Corpus. This proceeding represents an unconstitutional and politically motivated abuse of power. It undermines the will of the voters, the rule of law, and the principles of due process that form a foundation of democracy. Sheriff Corpus was elected by the people of San Mateo County to bring integrity, inclusion, and accountability to law enforcement. In less than 3 years, she has reduced crime, increased gender and racial diversity within the department. Rather than celebrate this progress, some have chosen to punish it. The board's actions appear retaliatory and a direct response to her reform agenda. Her disruption and untrenched political interest and your actions today have an underlying racial and fascist tone. The Latino Equity and Diversity Initiative stands shoulder to shoulder with Sheriff Corpus and all members of law enforcement, frontline workers, and with every voter whose voice is at risk of being silenced. We call the board to seize this unlawful process immediately and allow appropriate judicial mechanism, including civil grand jury and attorney general's oversight, to proceed without political interference. San Mateo County has long been seen as a beacon of progress. Do not let it become a cautionary tale of injustice. History is watching, people are watching. Protect democracy, protect due process, protect the will of the voters. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Nilza. Next, we have iPhone, followed by Catherine Dumont. iPhone, please unmute and begin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, my name is Joaquin Jimenez from the city of Half Moon Bay. I've been a resident of San Mateo County for almost 40 years, and I've seen the changes. And Sheriff Christina Corpus is a change. I would like to make a couple statements. You do not respect democracy. You do not respect the citizens of San Mateo County. Let me make a correction. Only 20% of San Mateo County came out to vote for Measure A. 20%, that's not democracy. 89% of the 20% voted yes on Measure A. That is not democracy. Where's the democracy on that? You need to respect democracy. You did not trust the residents of San Mateo County, so you wanted the power to remove Sheriff Corpus. That is not democracy. That is not trust on the people of San Mateo County. Another thing, what are you doing with your tax dollars? You're spending millions of dollars over money to remove somebody that was elected by the people. Sheriff Corpus was elected by the people. If you wanted her removed, that would have been a recall. A recall. That is a constitutional right of Sheriff Corpus to be removed by a recall, not by you. We do not give you the power to do this. We do not give you the power to remove Sheriff Corpus. She is a person of the people, not you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Catherine Dumont, followed by Elsa Schaefer. Catherine, please unmute and begin.
Good morning, supervisors and staff. Catherine Dumont. I'm a resident of Menlo Park, and I support the removal of the sheriff. I voted, like many others did, to give you this power. And I also want to make the point that I'm very concerned about the deaths in our jails, and I urge the supervisors to follow through on the commitment you made back in 2022 and create strong independent oversight in San Mateo County. Also, please bring the community into the process of selecting the next sheriff and make sure that it's an open process, and that there's alignment with residents' values, expectations, and needs. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to Elza Schaefer, followed by James Johnson. Elza, please unmute and begin.
Thank you, Supervisors. I'm Elza Schaefer. I live in Menlo Park, and I represent, well, I am a member of San Mateo County Democracy for America and the Coalition for a Safer San Mateo County. You, the board, have experts in a number of areas to help you understand situations and issues, and you represent over 700,000 people in our beautiful county. You have a $5.5 billion budget of our taxpayer dollars. All of that demands that you have competent staff and experts who can bring you evidence and recommendations. I highly recommend that you now turn to bring on a permanent inspector general so that in future that person can track metrics that they need to in the sheriff's office, so that issues where devastating new really unconscionable, I can get emotional over this one, actions can be taken without allowing deputies, employees there, to have reasonable lives while they are trying to uphold our public safety. I cannot forgive what has happened. I started Sheriff Corpus's kitchen cabinet for her election, and am so sad about what has happened in the debacle since then. I urge you, please, to hire a permanent inspector general so that these issues can be anticipated over time based on metrics, which you and the sheriff can see.
Thank you, Elsa.
We'll now go to Paloma Serna, followed by David Wozniak. Paloma, please unmute and begin.
My name is Paloma Serna. I'm the mother of Elisa Serna, who died in custody in San Diego County. I am with Saving Lives in Custody, California, and North County Equity and Justice Coalition. I am here to demand the immediate removal of the San Mateo County Sheriff. This community deserves leadership rooted in accountability, transparency, and integrity, not a sheriff who has repeatedly failed to uphold those values. Under this administration, we've seen misconduct ignored and a pattern of secrecy that erodes public trust. Let me be clear. Southern California counties are watching and standing with San Mateo residents, from San Diego to Riverside to San Bernardino, from San Bernardino to LA. Impacted families and advocates across the county, across the state, are united in demanding real accountability and an end to corruption in the sheriff's department. When law enforcement leaders abuse their power, they forfeit that privilege to serve. San Mateo County deserves better, a sheriff who values transparency over self-protection and cover-up. We are watching. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to David Wozniak, followed by Zoom user. David, please unmute and begin.
My name is David Wozniak, and I was Christina Corpus's first of many victims. Today, you will make an important decision, and I want you to hear directly from somebody who has been personally experienced her retaliation. I am not alone. Brian Phillip, Ryan Monahan, the Acosta brothers, Joe Fava, Carlos Tapia, just a few to name, who have dared to stand up to Christina and her boyfriend. Her actions have ruined careers, devastated families, and reduced well-earned retirements. The damage she has done sent shockwaves through the sheriff's office that will take decades to repair. I have since retired, but I deeply care about the department that I served and volunteered in since 1988. Ms. Corpus's actions caused lasting harm to my family and no doubt the family of those I just mentioned. I urge you to take decisive action and remove Christina Corpus from his office. This is an essential first step in restoring both employee morale and public trust in the sheriff's office. Christina's attorneys like to point to the June 22 election, yet completely ignores March of 2025. Make no mistake, Christina Corpus is not a victim. She is a corrupt tyrant, and her removal from office is the will of the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now try Zoom user. Zoom, please unmute and begin. It looks like they've lowered their hand. So now I will go to our last speaker from Zoom. That is James. Mr. President, hands do keep going up, and I do know you made a final call.
Oh, we
so I'll
did make a
defer to you.
final call.
Okay, great. So we will stick to our last speaker, which is James Johnson. James, please unmute and begin.
Yeah, thank you to the Board of Supervisors for giving me this opportunity. I think 1 minute doesn't suffice, but at the same time, it's part of your due process, so to speak, right? I can't see the audience here, but I do want to say that if Christina Corpus is in the room, I want to say that you're tough as nails. You're an amazing person. I think I've known you for roughly about 2 years. You've never give up. You always stood your ground, and as somebody that has been part of your extended team, I think that you've been an amazing person throughout this whole entire process. So I just want to say, keep fighting. You're extremely strong, and you have a lot of integrity, and I truly value you as a person. To the Board of Supervisors, I think you guys are creating a dangerous precedent. A precedent that will send shockwaves throughout the country. To have 5 people remove an elected official from office is unprecedented, and it's not doing justice to this country for democracy. Jackie Spears, I think you're the one person in that stage that I've always looked up to, being part of the DNC and being part of many different organizations that supported democracy. To vote somebody out that was voted in for 6 years is creating a dangerous precedent. Many counties, states are now going to be looking at this Measure A, this phony Measure A, and then now the minute that they don't like somebody, they're going to go in and eradicate their position. This is unfair. This is not justice. This is against the Constitution of the United States, which is the backbone and the pillar of this country. And we should always stand forward with the Constitution, not policies, not personal preference. And I strongly ask the Board of Supervisors to renege on this. Say no. Let Christina Corpus live out her 6 years, and if you guys want to vote her out, then do so. But I think what you guys are doing is an injustice to this country.
Thank
To
you.
the clerk, how many speakers raised their hands earlier?
There were 3 additional speakers that had raised their hands earlier.
Okay, this is the last 3. I think we've been more than generous.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Let's see, we have Yusuf Miller, and then I know Zoom user was another one, and I don't know the third one. I don't see their hand raised, but they may come up, and I'll recognize when they do. Yusuf Miller, please unmute and begin.
Good morning. This is Yusuf Miller. I'm with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition and Saving Lives in Custody, California. And I strongly suggest that you remove this sheriff for the trauma that she's caused the community and her own fellow officers, her deputies in this community. We need to have accountability. If we don't have accountability at the top shelf of this government, then why do we have accountability on people who are on the lower rung? Everyone needs to face transparency. Everyone needs to face accountability. Transparency and accountability is not the enemy. The enemy is the bad actors who are harming our community, harming our civilians, and harming our deputies, and creating a low and terrible morale. I think you are on the right path at looking at this. And as the earlier statement said, I hope this does create a shockwave and a reverberation throughout our state to let people know that they can hold people accountable, even if they're the sheriffs and in charge of the sheriff's department. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe the other one was Alex Rooker. Alex, if you'd like to unmute your microphone and begin.
Thank you so much. I envy good morning to all the supervisors and everyone there. I envy the job of the supervisors, but I plead with you, and I especially know Supervisor, now I just went blank. I went blank here. And I envy the job of all those that have to make a decision. It's tough. And just like the Sheriff Corpus, it's a tough job being at the top. You're never going to make everybody happy, but if you're doing the right thing, you keep going, and you're going to have enemies. There's no doubt about it. But to do what's happening now, what I'm hearing in this court, I feel like I'm listening to national news of the lack of democracy and the fighting and all the things that are going on nationally is going on here. And I'm having a hard time believing that I'm in California and someone like the sheriff is not getting due process. I don't understand that. And I hope that the county supervisors look at that. There is no hurry to make a decision today. Look at all the facts, look at it very well, both sides. I had to do representation for years as a labor leader on grievances. And boy, there were many cases where I didn't look at both sides or have two different shop stewards looking at it so that I could make the right decision. I would have made the wrong decision and that person would have lost their job. So from that experience alone, I've known to do that. And I hope that you supervisors, all of you, will do the right thing and look at all the facts and listen to both sides and then really give this person due process is really what needs to happen. And the voters will decide. And that's what I heard a lot of people say when they didn't want term limits. Let the voters decide. And that's what I believe. Let the voters decide, not someone else.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. I don't see any further hands raised at this time. We did receive one written comment, which I can read now, from Johanna Rasmussen of the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Commission. Good morning. Our committee continues to face serious challenges that have tested public confidence in law enforcement leadership. Now more than ever, the Sheriff's Department must rebuild trust through openness, accountability, and genuine collaboration with the community. The next sheriff must be chosen with the community, not for us. The selection process should be transparent, inclusive, and rooted in public trust. Community participation isn't just symbolic, it's essential to ensuring that the next sheriff reflects our shared values and priorities. Inviting the community to take an active role is how we rebuild confidence, can restore trust, and move forward together. Equally important is the need for the board to establish an independent inspector general to provide ongoing oversight of our sheriff's department. Independent oversight benefits everyone. It protects the public, protects our deputies, and promotes a culture of accountability and integrity. An inspector general will identify issues early on and ensure that policies and practices consistently align with the highest standards and reflect our community values. Thank you for your time. Respectively, Johanna Rasmussen. And that concludes public.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to item 1, which is the closed session conference of legal counsel that I described above. As reflected in Mr. Niblin's prior remarks and in the memorandum and related materials for item 2 on the agenda, the board has received the advisory opinion of retired Judge James Emerson related to the 10-day appeal hearing the sheriff's request. A copy of the advisory opinion was provided to the sheriff and her counsel on October 6th and made available to the public with the agenda on October 10th. The advisory opinion is part of the administrative record of the sheriff's appeal, which also includes the transcripts and exhibits amongst other items. The board has received a copy of the administrative record, and part of the record is confidential. Is that correct, County Attorney?
Yes, Mr. President. And sort of given the confidential nature of some of the administrative record and for other reasons, I would advise that the board move to closed session to consider and discuss the administrative record.
Thank you, Mr. Niblin. We'll now move to closed session. After the board had closed session, we'll return to open session to take up item 2 on the agenda. And so with that, I'll make a motion to close session. Second. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Spear? Supervisor Corzo? Yes. Supervisor Mueller? Supervisor Gaucher?
Yes.
And President Canepa?
Yes.
Motion passes and the board is recessing to closed session.
Thank you very much.
The time is now 11:24 a.m. Okay, the time is now 12:23 p.m., Mr. President, and all supervisors are present.
Thank you very much. We are now reconvening in open session with all members of the board present. The board has completed its closed session and will now move to item 2, which I've mentioned is consideration of the resolution that I described earlier in the meeting. County Attorney, could I ask you to report out of closed session and to say anything else you think is appropriate for this item?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll go ahead and do that. I first want to report that the board further considered in closed session the administrative record, including Judge Emerson's advisory opinion. As was noted in the board memorandum that staff put together to accompany this item, Judge Emerson concluded that this board does have cause to remove the sheriff based on multiple findings of misconduct by the sheriff. As I mentioned at an earlier point in this meeting, the removal procedures that have been adopted by this board provide that at a board meeting following receipt and review of the hearing officer's advisory opinion, the board must vote on whether, by a preponderance of evidence, there was cause, as defined in section 412.5 of the county charter, to remove the sheriff. A 4/5 vote is required to remove the sheriff for cause. The resolution that's sitting before the board at this time today reflects that the board adopts Judge Emerson's opinion that there are 4 independent causes to remove the sheriff. Specifically, those causes are: 1, for violating sections 501 and 510 of the San Mateo County Charter and San Mateo County Ordinance Code section 2.00.060. And this relates to a conflict of interest related to Victor INJ. Second, for violating Government Code section 3502.1 and 3506.5, which relates to retaliation against Deputy Carlos Tapia. Third, for violating Penal Code section 836, which relates to the arrest of Carlos Tapia without probable cause. And finally, 4, for violating Labor Code section 1102.5, and that pertains to retaliation against Brian Phillip. The resolution also provides that the board adopts the hearing officer's rationale as set forth in those pages of the hearing officer's opinion as its own for purposes of this determination. In voting to adopt this resolution, the board is also voting to approve the final decision after removal hearing, which is a letter at attachment B to the resolution included in the board packet, which it sets forth the board's rationale in support of its vote to remove. Further, if adopted, the resolution directs all other actions necessary to remove the sheriff from office and to make a decision final and effective immediately. Finally, Mr. President, I just wanted to add one additional thing. I don't normally indulge in this because it's not typically necessary or productive, but I did want to comment on a particular thing that Mr. Perez noted earlier today. I think he was recounting, I believe it was Mr. Perez, it may have been Mr. Mazuka, so I apologize if I have that wrong. But in any event, it was a recounting of a meeting that took place at some point in the last couple of months involving Mr. Perez, Mr. Mazuka. I believe Ms. Crooks was at that meeting, as was I and Brian Coolidge with the district attorney, Mr. Wagstaff. And the recounting was that at that meeting, Mr. Wagstaff agreed that there was risk of criminal liability on the part of Deputy Tapia, or words to that effect. And I want to be very clear that I was at that meeting and Mr. Wagstaff didn't say any such thing. And I, in fact, confirmed with Mr. Wagstaff today that was not his recollection of the meeting. So in any event, I just wanted to note that for the record. That's what I have at the moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nibble. And I do have a question, and after that, I will ask my colleagues for any questions that they may have. Mr. Niblin, just so it's clear for the public and for this board, if the board were to take action today as described in the board memorandum and resolution, what would be the effect?
Thank you, Mr. President. If the board were to adopt this resolution today, I would be, as a consequence of that resolution, be directed to serve the final decision after removal hearing by mail on the sheriff. However, the sheriff's removal would be effective immediately and final upon the board's vote. I understand from the sheriff's counsel that she intends to challenge in court any decision to remove her, but if she were to be removed, she would be doing any such sort of appellate process in court in her personal capacity and not as sheriff.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or discussions from my colleagues? Seeing, are there any questions, comments? Supervisor Mueller.
Yes, I'll go first. I have no problem. So, colleagues, I just want to clarify something. So during Mr. Perez's addressing us, he indicated he thought he saw me smirk. And I want to shed some light on what happened there. So Judge Emerson, in his opinion, wrote, Deputy Tapia's arrest by Sheriff Corpus is not legitimized simply by Acting Assistant Sheriff Fox, because Acting Assistant Sheriff Fox executed and issued a probable cause declaration upon which Sheriff Corpus placed her reliance. In light of the undersigned hearing officer's finding above that Sheriff Corpus intentionally influenced and interfered with Acting Assistant Sheriff Fox's investigation. Under such circumstances, Appellant Sheriff Corpus had no reasonable reason to believe and consciously entertain any suspicion of Deputy Tapia's guilt on the charge of time card fraud. Now that finding from Judge Emerson, I thought was something that counsel for the sheriff would want to address today. And when Mr. Perez addressed us, I was surprised, frankly, that not only did he not address it, he said to us we couldn't even consider it. I found that frankly very surprising. I have some questions for County Counsel. Mr. Niblin, in your view, can the board legally remove the sheriff from office today?
Yes. My view is, having considered the applicable authorities, the facts, if the board, the board can in fact take action today to remove the sheriff if the board deems such action warranted based on the administrative record.
And if the board decided to remove the sheriff, would the sheriff's removal be consistent with Measure A amendment to the county charter?
Yes.
And if the board decided to remove the sheriff, would the sheriff's removal be consistent with California law?
Yes, I believe it would be.
So it's a technical question, but is the board authorized to remove the sheriff from office today?
Yeah, for all the reasons that I've already stated, yes.
And has County Council reached a conclusion whether or not I personally or Supervisor Corzo have any legal conflict that would prevent us from participating in the board's deliberation of whether or not to remove the sheriff?
Well, I've assessed the applicable law and the facts here, and I conclude that no supervisor, including yourself or Supervisor Corzo, has any legal conflict that would prevent any of them from participating in the board's proceedings. So I think you, Supervisor Corzo, the board as a whole can proceed today.
And has County Council reached a conclusion whether or not I or Supervisor Corzo or any supervisor have any legal conflict that would prevent us from voting on whether or not to remove the sheriff?
I have reached a conclusion on that. And again, I don't believe that any supervisor, yourself, Supervisor Corzo, any member of the board has a conflict that would prevent you from voting on this matter today.
All right. So it's a technical question, but are we all authorized to vote whether or not to remove the sheriff today?
I believe you are.
Okay. Mr. President, I personally am ready to vote on this item.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mueller. Are there any other questions or comments? Supervisor Spear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is the end of a tragic, destructive, and grossly expensive chapter in San Mateo County history. I had high hopes for Sheriff Corpus. I voted for her. I held a town hall with her on crime prevention. She had great ideas to modernize the office. So it's tragic to see her time as sheriff come down to this. After 36 witnesses who testified under oath, 174 exhibits, and 55 hours of testimony, retired Judge Emerson determined there were 4 causes to remove the sheriff. The first cause, conflict of interest. Quote, the evidentiary record supports a finding that the sheriff and Mr. INJ were in a close relationship outside the boundaries of a professional working relationship. Judge Emerson concludes that, quote, Sheriff Corpus elevated her own interest in the close personal relationship she held with Mr. INJ above her obligation to appoint, recruit, select, and or retain based on merit and in conformity with the principles of equal opportunity. There was a stunning revelation in the hearing that the sheriff asked the County Human Resources Department to create a position for Mr. INJ that had a high salary. And when he was offered a salary of $73 an hour, which is the equivalent of about $150,000 a year, the sheriff said, quote, that's not enough, or that's not good enough, unquote. So she continued to pursue a new title for Mr. INJ that put him at over $250,000 a year. Equal opportunity was flagrantly ignored further because the position was unposted and only Mr. INJ applied. In the arrest of Deputy Sheriff Tapia, Judge Emerson concluded that the Sheriff Corpus lacked probable cause, that she had, quote, no reasonable reason to believe that the Deputy Tapia was guilty of a charge of time card fraud, unquote. Further, Judge Emerson finds that the sheriff subjected Deputy Tapia to punitive action and imposed reprisals on him as the elected representative of the Deputy Sheriff's Association. To abuse one's office by filing false accusations and falsely arresting them is nothing short of repugnant and corrupt. We do not do that in San Mateo County. We are committed to equal justice under the law. The question before us is, has there been a violation of any law related to the performance of the sheriff's duties? Judge Emerson believes these and other violations have been committed by Sheriff Corpus. I agree. In my view, Sheriff Corpus lost her sense of purpose and put Mr. INJ above the vocal opposition to him among the ranks of her deputies, and in so doing, permanently damaged her relationship with those she was charged to lead. It's a tragedy, a real tragedy. I will vote to terminate the sheriff.
Thank you so much. Supervisor Spear, are there any additional comments? Vice Chair Corso. Vice President Corso.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take a moment to recognize that this is a historic vote for our county and for the state of California. And I personally could never have imagined that this would be the history that Christina Corpus would make in our county. I, like many others, gave Christina Corpus the benefit of the doubt on many occasions, and looking back far more times than I should have. This removal process has been based on fair procedures and evidence to determine whether there is cause to remove a sheriff, in this case, Christina Corpus, from office. Christina Corpus and her legal representatives have had more than enough time and opportunity to speak their piece. What they have been unable to do is provide anything beyond empty words. They could have completely refuted any and all allegations with hard facts and supporting evidence, but because they have been unable to do so, they have only continued deflecting, denying, and dividing. I want to acknowledge the deep harm this has caused in our community. We have heard from some members of the public today that they believe we rushed this process, while others stated that this process has taken far too long. It's clear we've all been impacted, but obviously to different extents. To everyone who has been harmed, please know that my heart goes out to you. As someone who worked hard to elect Christina Corpus as sheriff, I take responsibility for misguiding our community, although I continue to believe in the values and progress that led me to supporting Ms. Corpus at the time. As the first Latinas making history by being elected to our respective roles, I had high hopes for what we could achieve together. I, like many others, wanted Christina Corpus to be successful. The power to remove a sheriff is not one that the public entrusted us with lightly. And it's something that I think each and every one of us takes very seriously. It's a responsibility. It's a duty. Before I wrap up, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the thoughtfulness and care and professionalism on the part of all county staff who have worked tirelessly to lead our community through this chaos. Our county attorney's office, Chief Keene, former judges Cordell and Emerson, county staff, and many others who worked through this exhaustive process. And especially all of our sheriff's office staff. To the women who worked directly under Victor Añe, I'm sorry for everything that you had to endure. To Carlos Tapia, president of the Deputy Sheriff's Union, who was arrested on false charges. And former Captain Brian Phillip, who, when face to face with blatant corruption, would rather turn in his gun and badge than participate. I'm sorry for what each and every one of you went through. And I want to thank the public for trusting us with this decision. And I want to thank those who have engaged respectfully and patiently. And who have been willing to believe facts when they're presented with them, and who were willing to admit that they too were fooled. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Although we may not all agree, we are all part of this community, and we will all continue to be part of this community after this vote takes place. I deeply regret that we have to be here today for this final vote. It didn't and shouldn't have had to be this way. This vote marks the end of one part of our duty as a board. And the other will begin soon, and that is to repair the harm and rebuild trust in the sheriff's office and in our community with our residents. I know that we are committed to continuing our work. And with that, I am prepared to fulfill my duty under the charter and vote based on the evidence presented in the established record. Thank you.
Supervisor Gaucher.
No, thank you. I inherited this issue, but I take the responsibility seriously. When you think about leadership, accountability and integrity means the world to me. For myself, I have to be who I say I am when no one else is watching. And that's what I expect of electeds as well. This moment is difficult, but it is also defining. So I too am ready. I've heard from my colleagues and listening to all of the evidence. I too am ready at this point to take a vote.
Great, thank you.
I just have one more outstanding item. So I didn't state it, but I do want to say that my vote today is based solely on the totality of the administrative record created pursuant to Article 4, Section 412.5 of the county charter. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, colleagues. This has been one of the most serious and difficult matters probably ever to come before this board. The decisions before us today is unprecedented in state's history. No Board of Supervisors has removed a sheriff from office. But when San Mateo County voters overwhelmingly approved Measure A earlier this year by 84%, they made it clear they wanted strong oversight, transparency, and accountability from their elected sheriff. Measure A gives this board the authority to act when clear and convincing evidence shows misconduct. That is exactly what we have here. After a 10-day public appeal hearing conducted by retired Judge James Emerson, during which 36 witnesses testified under oath and 174 exhibits were admitted, the hearing officer concluded in a 42-page advisory opinion that the county has cause to remove Sheriff Corpus for multiple serious violations. Judge Emerson found 4 independent causes for removal, each one on its own sufficient to meet the legal threshold. 1. Conflict of interest stemming from the sheriff's close personal relationship with a subordinate, Victor IMJ, which compromised her judgment and violated the county charter. 2. Retaliation against Deputy Sheriff's Association President Carlos Tapia, including directing his unlawful arrest without probable cause. 3. Retaliation against Captain Brian Phillip, a veteran officer who refused to carry out an order he believed to be unlawful. 4. A repeated pattern of conduct that placed personal interests over public duty, undermining trust within the sheriff's office and the community it serves. This board does not take this action lightly. The sheriff and her counsel have been afforded every opportunity to respond through the independent investigation, the pre-removal conference, and a full appeal hearing presided over by a respected retired judge. This process, and make no mistake about it, has been transparent, deliberate, and fair at every step. Our duty today is to uphold the public's trust. The people of this county deserve a sheriff's office that operates with honesty, professionalism, and accountability, free of conflicts and retaliation. Removing an elected official is never easy, but allowing misconduct to continue unchecked would do this organization greater harm. So for the integrity of the sheriff's office, for the protection of our employees, and for the trust of the public, I support the resolution before us today to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office for cause under section 412.5 of the county charter. So colleagues, I don't know.
Supervisor Canepa, I need to just interject real
Yes.
quick because I think you may have misspoke.
Yes.
County Council Niblin, I believe Supervisor Canada applied the clear and convincing standard, but that's not what we're operating under today, correct?
There's not a requirement that there be clear and convincing evidence. The hearing officer found by a preponderance of the evidence, which is the standard that we are dealing with here, that there was cause, but clear and convincing is not the standard.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that clarification. Supervisor Mueller, are there any additional questions or comments? All right, we've had the opportunity for questions and for discussion. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution which does in summary the following? Receives the advisory written opinion of the hearing officer, finding that the county has cause to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office. Confirms the Board of Supervisors' independent review of the hearing officer's opinion and the administrative record, and determining by preponderance of the evidence that there is cause to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office. Makes a final decision to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office for cause pursuant to section 412.5 of the San Mateo County Charter. Declares that the Board of Supervisors adopts as its own the rationale of the hearing officer and finding cause for removal. Approves the letter of County Council as the final decision after removal hearing, making Sheriff Christina Corpus removal final and effective immediately. Establishes the administrative record. Again, as has been noted, pursuant to the procedures adopted by this board, this action requires a 4/5 vote of the board. Do I have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, sure. And this is to approve all of the subheadings. So I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. Supervisor Spear?
Aye.
Supervisor Corzo?
Yes, and I would ask that Christina Corpus's attorneys return this challenge coin to her that she gave me years ago.
Supervisor Mueller?
Yes.
Supervisor Gaucher?
Yes.
President Canepa?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. Through the county attorney, I understand that there is something additional that you would like to add at this time. Could you please go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to share that in a conversation I had with counsel for the sheriff, he had informed me of his view that a separate view taken after the board finds that there is cause to remove the sheriff is needed to reflect the board's review and approval of the final decision after removal hearing. While I believe that one vote on a single motion that included approval of the final decision after removal hearing is sufficient, such as the vote that the board just took, in an abundance of caution, I am asking the board to consider and vote on
another separate motion, and the motion would be to this effect. It would be specifically that having determined that there is cause to remove the sheriff, and after having voted to remove her, the board has caused to be prepared the written final decision after removal hearing, which provides the board's rationale in support of its vote, finding cause to remove the sheriff, and that the board has reviewed and approves the final decision after removal hearing, which is set forth in the letter of county council included in the agenda packet, making Sheriff Corpus's removal final and effective immediately. So I would ask somebody to please make that motion.
Is there a supervisor who wants to make that motion?
Yes, I would make that motion, following what our county attorney has stated.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right, roll call, please.
Supervisor Spear,
Aye.
Supervisor Corzo,
Yes.
Supervisor Mueller,
Yes.
Supervisor Gaucher,
Yes.
President Canepa.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you, colleagues, county attorney. Anything else?
Nothing further.
This concludes our meeting for today, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
The time is now 12:49 p.m. We are adjourned.
Might be.